Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today here at the Cambridge Union. Got a really action-packed day today, so speaker event now, and then hopefully you also join us for the classics debate afterwards. But really glad to have both Craid David and Colin Lester joining us here today. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Craid David is a British singer, songwriter, rapper, DJ and record producer, and this year marks 20 years since his critically acclaimed album Born to Die. Since then, his wide and varied career has spanned 23 UK top 40 singles, 9 UK top 40 albums, and in total, I think over 5 billion streams worldwide. And joining him and myself today is Colin, Chairman and CEO of the JEM Group, Music Group. So Colin has worked with David since 1999 and has guided the career of naturally David, but also many other famous acts, including the Artic Monkeys and Travis. So if you could put your hands together and welcome them to join us today. Thanks.
Absolutely packed house, isn't it? You're all right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
So
wow,
what time? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I think we'll kick off with a short address.
That's all right. Just make it more intimate. Come a little bit, closer. That's it. Yeah, there we are. Come on, Joe. We all know who Joe is. Joe's a superstar. If you don't know it now, thanks, Joe. Look at that.
Amazing. Right. I think we'll start with a brief speech from yourself and Craig about how you guys started to work together, and then we'll go into an interview, sort of informal chat, myself and both of you, and then we'll open it up to the audience. I'm pretty sure there'll be some really good questions from the audience, so keen to make that the focus of the event as well. So yeah, without further ado, hand over to you, Colin.
Okay. I've been in the music industry all of my working life since the age of 16, when I was asked by mutual decision to leave my comprehensive state school. And when I say mutual, they asked me to leave and I left. So that was by mutual consent. And it's a very important point because it takes you up to the end that I've ended up with a doctorate and a professorship in my chosen subject, which is music. So if any of you guys fail your exams, do not worry. Don't worry about it. Success still beckons for you, okay? And I started as a musician very, very quickly. Started as a musician. I was signed to a record company that was owned and run by the first mafia man in this country, a guy called Don Arden, who's Sharon Osbourne's father. And he had a record company called Jet Records that was basically it was basically a heavy metal label that had Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, and really heavy rock bands, which is what I played in at the time. And having left there, the band, should I say, because we recorded an album and did all the stuff there. Once I left there, I actually became a house producer over Abbey Road Studios, producing demos for other people that were then sending it over to record labels, mainly EMI. From there, I got asked one day if I would, if I knew anyone that could engineer a session that made £300 a day for an engineer. And I thought, wow, yeah, I can find one of these guys at Abbey Road. So I went to Abbey Road to work that night, and I said to my engineer, "You don't earn much money here, do you?" He said, "Not really." I said, "What about if I can get you £300 a day for 6 months? Would you leave?" He said, "Absolutely." Gave his notice in. He earned £300 a day for 6 months, and I earned £60 a day for 6 months without doing anything at all except literally having one phone call. That's really what gave me the sort of initial enjoyment, I guess, about management. But it also led me to artist management because in producing artists there, I always felt that I had more to offer than just producing the tracks. And I went on to manage acts such as the Brand New Heavies, who went on to sell millions of copies in the 90s of their brother-sister album, and we sold huge tours around the world. Travis, the Artic Monkeys, I signed Travis when they were in art college. Who went on to sell millions of records. The Artic Monkeys I signed when they were in school doing their A-levels, and they were playing a pokey little club in Sheffield. And during that whole period of managing artists, somewhere in between that and many other artists, such as Carly and Anderson, that were multi-million selling artists, I came across an artist called Connor Reeves. Connor Reeves had a song called My Father's Son. I love the fact you were nodding, because it's an amazing song. Do you know the song? It's an amazing song. And he came in, this guy with a little flat cap, came into my office and he played me a song called My Father's Son. I thought, wow, this is absolutely amazing. You know, just the whole sense of it. You know, I live my life like I've done. I'm my father's son. And that was the chorus of it, which actually Joe Cocker went on to cover as one of his tracks on an album. I couldn't get this guy a record deal. Nobody in this country wanted to sign this kid, and this was late 90s. No one wanted to give him a record deal. And I was so ridiculously frustrated that I said, you know what, I'm going to start a record company. And myself and my partner, Ian McAndrew, we decided at the point, you know, we would branch out to start a label, as we had a management company. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if we owned a radio station as well? That'd be really, really good. Actually, let's try and get a meeting with the people over at Capital Radio. And we did. We managed to get a meeting with the people at Capital Radio, who said they absolutely, and asked them if they wanted to be in business with us, in particular a program director, a legend of a program director called Richard Park, who had a lot to play in Craig's life later on. So between Richard, Park, myself and Ian, we started a label called Wild Star Records, to which I signed Latricia McNeil and a few other artists that sold millions of singles at the time. And one day I was listening to Lush Radio and I heard this track called Rewind. And there was this part in it that said, Craid David all over your point, which you all now know very well. But of course at the time, it really wasn't a pop song. You know, pop songs, just for your information in case you don't listen to pop music, actually speed up in the chorus and they don't slow down. This song slowed down in the chorus, so it made it very original, and it certainly wasn't the pop song that it sounds like today that we all dance to, or I don't, but you guys might. So my wife says I've got two left feet, so that's why. But so I actually thought, I like that kid. I love that Craid David singing on it. I think he's great. This is Artful Dodger. This is interesting, but actually the singer on it is amazing. And I did my research and found he had a manager, nice chap called Paul Widger, and I managed to get him to come over to my office and play me some more material of Craig's. And he played me some songs, and one of the songs was Walking Away. And it absolutely blew me away. Absolutely thought it was incredible that this guy had written a song at 17 years old called Walking Away. I'm walking away from the troubles in my life. I'm walking away trying to find a better day. I thought, wow, this is somebody I have to work with. Absolutely have to work with. And it was the same feeling, by the way, with Connor Reeves. The same feeling when I had to start a label, and Connor went on to have #1 records, etc., etc., with My Father's Son, so we were right on that tip. But I had that same feeling when I heard Craig's Walking Away. When I heard Rewind, I loved the record. When I heard Walking Away, it just made me get in my car on auto drive, and I ended up somehow in Southampton on a Holyrood council estate, met by Craig here, this wonderful artist who said to me, I wouldn't leave your car there because they won't have tyres when you come back. And I remember saying to Craig, I don't really care about tyres. I care about music, so let's go and listen to some stuff in your flat, which was his mother's flat in Southampton. And so I signed Craig to my label, Wild Star Records, mine and Ian's label, Wild Star Records. And I originally did a development deal, if that's right with you. And I said, look, Craig, I've got one song, Walking Away, which I absolutely love. It's going to be really hard for me to invest £1 million, which is what it takes. It certainly did that at that point to market and promote an album for an artist. on the back of one song, but I definitely want to, let's work together, let's get you writing with other people, let's put you in a situation where you can earn some money, so we'll give you some money so you can now concentrate and be a professional musician. You don't have to do jobs at McDonald's or, you know, other telephone jobs that you were doing at the time, that you'll talk about, no doubt. And nothing like a Big Mac, you see. No one knows a Big Mac like Craig. Trust me, if I want it, I have to say to Craig, flipped correctly. And because of that one song, it brought in the most incredible amount of music that I've experienced from an artist. You know, within 4 weeks, he called me up and said, "Can I come and play you a new song?" And I said, "Yeah, come on in." So he came down with his manager from Southampton. He came in looking like a footballer, and I he had a lovely suit on. And he played me another song called "Fill Me In." And he told me that it was taken from a dance track from a band at the time. Can you remember the name of the band?
BB Mac, I think.
BB Mac, which was a band at the time that there was a dance version of their single. Craig heard the backing track and wrote "Fill Me In," and that's absolutely amazing. Mark Hill, who wrote and produced the track with Craig, had done that for BB Mac. Craig then loved it, wrote "Fill Me In" over it. He said, "Oh, and by the way, I've got this other song you may want to check out." And and when I say this, I've got this other song you may want to check out, I mean, when I say the word humble, which is what Craig is today, he was humble then when he took out and then played 7 days. And there was nothing about playing me "Fill Me In" 7 days in the same meeting. So can you imagine, from my point of view, as to be honest with you, you know, one of my favorite things in life, in my top 3, is hearing an amazing song, is in my top 3 things in my life still today. When I heard these 2 songs in one meeting, it was like winning the jackpot for me. It was just, you know, unbelievable experience. And walking away there, having 3 of those songs, I said, forget this development period, Craig, you clearly don't need it. You're fully developed. And we made an album called Born to Do It that went on to sell 8 million copies, as it has done so far. And that's how Craig and I met. Craig stayed with the record company for a while, and then he departed with his manager, and I'll leave Craig to talk about elements of that. He departed with his manager, and I said to him, "Okay, Craig, you need to go and find a manager because there's a conflict. I'm a record company, I can't be your manager." You know, and he said, "Well, okay." So I gave him Tina Turner's manager and some of the biggest artist managers that were working at the time, because Craig at this point had a #1 single with "Fill Me In." Yeah. And by the way, I gave him some very good advice when I told him that record was #1. What was the advice? Can you remember the advice I gave you? When I sat down in my office and said, "Oh, by the way, Craig, your record's just gone to #1 and sold ridiculous million copies or whatever. And I told you to do something straight after that." I don't know if you remember. Phone your mum. And
phone my mum, yes, sorry. You're absolutely right.
So it was, you know, and that's the environment that I've always worked in and believed in. That I work with artists that I really like and that are part of the JEM family, you know, my family. So that's the most important thing for me. And that was the advice I gave Craig when he got literally when this record went to #1. Craig parted with his manager, as I say, and I plugged him into our management system because we're obviously a management company as well. And I said, "You need to find yourself a manager. We'll plug you in because you have a #1 record. The demand on you is mad. The office will take care of you, but please go and find a manager, you know, within the next few weeks." About a month later, I said, "Craig, have you found a manager? Have you seen these people I sent you?" And he said to me, "No." He said, "I'm not going anywhere else. I'm your manager, mate." And I said, "You can't. I'm the label. I can't do it." He said, "I don't care what you're going to do. You manage other people, so manage me." Anyway, the story was very simple for me. I went to a lawyer who drew a contract up that they call a Chinese wall. Still don't quite understand why, but there we are. And I've managed Craig ever since. And it's been one of the most incredible friendships of my life, as apart from business relationships. And it's something that was quite incredible to have thought over 21 years now since we met, that I would not only have a successful artist, which is what I did for a living, but I would be making a lifelong friend in the same process. Definitely. And somebody that I would kill for professionally, but also would kill for now personally. So it's been an incredible journey to where we lead today, and I just wanted to give you a bit of the background so that you understand how we came together and how talented this guy really is, because he didn't have any idea when he played me 7 days, and I don't even think with Fill Me In, to be honest with you. You weren't jumping around, going, oh, this is going to be number one. I was jumping around. I was like, oh my God, this is huge. But one of the most humble people that I've ever met in this industry, one of the nicest people, you know, that I've ever met. In fact, I asked him yesterday, Craig performed for the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, yesterday, and we were very lucky to be at the St Paul's Cathedral, and Craig was in the lineup afterwards, and I said to Craig afterwards, what did the Queen say to you? Because he had a long chat with Harry, which was reported in all the press today. But I said, what did the Queen say to you? I said, oh, you know, and Craig was so excited, I mean, beyond excited about performing for the royal family, which is a wonderful thing. And she said, do you know what, I can't remember. You know, and it's such a lovely answer. You know, today he told me what she said, and it's quite rude, so I won't repeat it, but she said, you know, what a lovely song. But he couldn't remember it yesterday. In the whole thing, he said, I can't remember, I'm just love, you know, you will never meet a more nice, humble artist as Craid David. So if that's by way of me introducing Craig into the discussion, there it is, Craid David.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Craig, and rather than giving you my backstory, because I think that you're going to be like, wow, you've got some tea to get home for, and you're just like,
tell them about flipping burgers, we all want to know about that.
I would say that talking about the burgers and telecanvassing, which is interesting, because I used to wear like a very similar headset to this when I was calling people up to sell double glazed windows. And you cold call people, and you would just get absolutely rinsed down the phone. I don't know why. I mean, I did it because I needed to make some money so I could buy some more records and to kind of to fuel my passion for music. But when you pick up the phone and you're asking someone, you're getting like 10 seconds, and then someone's putting the phone down, or you're getting like 20 seconds, and that extra 10 seconds is usually a few words that you're just like, I don't really want to kind of sort of say right now, but you're like, wow, this job is not really the one, but I want to be a musician. I want to be able to buy records, and I want to follow my passion. So sometimes you have to do the thing that maybe isn't exactly what you want to do at the time, but you honor the fact that this is a means to an end. You're just like, okay, cool, this is the thing I need to do. The McDonald's thing was just, again, opportunity came. I kind of, again, utilized it to my best of my ability. You know what I mean? That when the extra value meal came out, if anyone has ever worked at McDonald's, then you would know this. If you get the opportunity to work at McDonald's, you would maybe take this up, take the tray over to the fries, take the spatula, and lay the fries across the whole tray, so you get a full, like, sort of 5 or 6 worth of fries. That's always a good little move. And then when they do the little, like, tokens where you can win a free Big Mac or free whatever you used to get on the actual carton, there's a big mound of them that are usually by the sink in the back. So if you can redistribute them back into the society, like a bit like Robin Hood, you become the best friend of all your mates. So there's ways to make it work for you, trust me. But to sort of fast forward, because what a beautiful intro, and to sort of so eloquently put about our friendship and our relationship as manager and artist, but more importantly as friends, because you've done things for me that are way beyond what a manager would do for an artist. But at the same time, as a manager, you've protected me, which you always said to my mother and my grandma when you first came to Southampton, that you couldn't guarantee success for me, but you would definitely protect me and make sure that you give me the best opportunity and all the tools to have the best chance at it. So
it's a manager's job to be, you know, that is a manager's job.
But when I've seen
in spite of losing my tyres.
It was all right. I've sorted you out with a few tyres.
No, you're right.
And you said I've got you some Pirellis. nice Pirelli now you got on there. Low profile. So you're
low profile.
And run flat, so you're fine for a while.
Absolutely great.
But yeah, it's been just an amazing journey. And it's sort of evolved over the last 21 years. It's being at a point when it was very analog and it was all about physical sales, and the excitement I had of getting up on a Monday morning and going to, I don't know, HMV or Virgin and putting on your favorite outfit, and kind of you go up there and you put the headphones on and you'd be listening to the CDs and you'd be super excited about taking whatever you bought out of the cellophane or that vinyl and sort of cutting up your fingers because you never quite kind of understood how to get it out of the cellophane, or you mashed up your jeans because you were doing this and it sort of put a nice little dent in your jeans. For any of you old enough to know about vinyl, but if not, sack that off. And then getting home and sitting down with an album and just like enjoying a body of work. I mean, for me, that's what I grew up listening to. And so that was what inspired me. So then when we fast forward to move into more streaming and the new era of listening to music, for me was one of the things that, I'd say for Colin, that you had to learn. You had to kind of put down your tools of what you thought you knew, and if you wanted to still play in this game, you needed to be prepared to kind of change up your ways, learn and understand the new model. And for me, it's actually wonderful now because it gives a lot of my music, my back catalogue, a chance for people to actually hear again. Because if you bought my first album, my second album, and you've bought it one for the car and one for your one at home and one for your brother or sister, you're good. There's your three. And then it sort of gets lost in the crates and in the vaults of something that happened back in 2000. Whereas now you might listen to a brand new song of mine and be like, okay, let me look, and it links into all of my back catalogue. So you're like, oh, I didn't know he had a tune that was, that Born to Do It album. And then all of a sudden it all becomes one. It's like one big playlist. So I kind of appreciate that as a songwriter. And I'm probably having my most fun time now because I understand the direction. And I think when you're young as a new artist, you're trying to cover so many bases. I think now I know that the most important thing and the thing that gives me so much satisfaction is writing songs, going out and performing, and to have opportunities like this now to actually to give some wisdom, but quality wisdom and hindsight that I can actually... Wow, you squared it across the whole thing.
It's interesting. I hope that's on film because I know the owners. I'm going to explain to them.
That'd be great, but we're straight across that. Comedy moment.
That's a flaw with their business. No wonder it's not doing that well.
This is the vibe we have. So it's always comical moments with us. But I would say that it's the most fun thing that I find now is that being at... Jesus.
Can of water.
You're right there.
Sorry. If I'm upsetting the owners, then I'll speak to them.
No, I think we're
Sorry, Lawrence.
Dilute down the whiskey. Get it. Okay. Where was I? Sorry. The fun is that actually being able to give some 20 years worth of experience and be able to kind of hopefully feed that back in some way that's not old school. It's not like, okay, I'm telling you some story about it. As much as it is going vinyls and albums, I understand the whole new model and how it works. So when we do get to throwing the questions out to you, I'd like to think that I can, or both of us can give you just some insight to cut to the chase. I think sometimes that's one thing I've realized, is that you have to learn firsthand the experiences, but there was a lot of time wasted in areas that just weren't serving the bigger purpose. You thought it was all over here in the micro, and it was like, actually, it was like, if I just followed what I was doing, the song was carrying me so far forward. I was getting into the super minutiae. And there's moments of detail, don't get me wrong, I'm very much about a perfectionist, but I know the time when to pull off and let go, which at the time earlier on, I wouldn't let go. I'd still be writing my first album if it was me, but... So that's what we're up to. So I will
that's
throw
what we
to
do. That's
to
what
you, my
managers
man. I
do.
know that you've got...
We take the album and we say, you're finished now. And even when we were cutting the album, Born to Do It, that is, he wanted to make changes and record. So I said, no, we're cutting the album. It's going to the presses tomorrow, as they were in the day. So there were things that, you can actually do today that you couldn't do in between.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't do it then, but, you had to go to the presses, which obviously they made vinyl. And vinyl's now made for collectors rather than people to play it. So my advice is if you buy vinyl, keep it shrink wrapped. That's true. We did a cassette on Craig's last single. We did a cassette copy of it, but with a USB that you could actually pull out. And people honestly came into my office with a cassette, and that may include some people like you who said, "Well, what's this? Hello?" They thought, I honestly didn't know what a cassette was, and it made it even more special as a special collector's item. So it's moved on incredibly, and just to reiterate, when I went to see Craig the very first time, as a manager, the thing that really impressed me the most, because obviously I had one song, was the fact that his bedroom, which was absolutely probably about the size of this stage, doubled, if that, right, was stacked from floor to ceiling with vinyl, with decks, and that was it. And then there was a bed that was almost where you sat to make your music. And that, for me, as a manager, told me, this guy he's into music. He lives, breathes, everything's music. And if you want my investment, you've got it, because, you've got skin in the game, a serious amount of it, and you are a huge lover of what you're doing. And that's important for any manager to look at, or label, as I was, to say, okay, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
And that's what made him the real deal, and just carried on doing it through the years. And I remember there was one track that was on that original demos that was called, wasn't Human, what was that other?
Well, Cocoa Butter.
Cocoa Butter. The Cocoa Butter track was quite interesting, because Cocoa Butter was a track that we never used, and I sort of said, what's this Cocoa Butter track, Craig? Man of your, and actually, if you guys go and listen to Craig's version of when the bass line drops with Big Nasty refers to Cocoa Butter in his rap, because I was telling Nasty the story in the studio about when I first signed Craig, and he had this track called Cocoa Butter that was absolutely shit. And Craig would have disagreed with me, obviously, but and so he loved it so much. You'll hear it in the rap that Big Nasty does on Cocoa Butter. But
yeah, it wasn't one of my best. But it was. Do you know what it was? It's funny because just again how times have changed. So I was looking at DJ Khaled, and he's like, Cocoa Butter is like, obviously if you know the kind of the lotion that you can get it in, that's from Palmer's, so it's like a skin moisturizer. So whatever I was talking about in the song was kind of probably something to do with that. But fast forward, you see DJ Khaled, he has it on the sale in your local Boots. You'll be saying like Palmer's, Cocoa Butter. You're thinking, wow, how times have changed. How people will latch on to branding for things now and actually find legs in something that, as a song in isolation, it wasn't a great song. That's why I never got through, and I'm glad for that, because if I look back, I think I'm thankful that you actually, your integrity as an A&R at the time, and always through my career, but meeting you on that, and in that element, you were able to say, you know what, I know you're passionate, I know you're very excited, but this is not working. And I think that's been the real USP of our relationship, is that you're not afraid to say to me or any of your artists, it's not working and it's not good. But if I'm super passionate about something, we'll definitely take it to we exhaust it to its point where Colin will always side on the creative and the passion. So if I kind of keep going at something, keep going, he'll be like, you know what, I've tried to give you my best opinion on this, but if you want to go, it's definitely down to you. And at that point, I see reason in things. There's points where I'm just like, you know what, you're absolutely right. And that's the beauty. He's not here to say yes to me. That I think is, you don't want that outside in any form in your life. You want friends who will say to you, you know what, you're being a bit of an idiot, to be honest. I'm just calling you out, and everyone else is like smiling, sort of like licking your ass. But I've got to tell you, this ain't really working. And you need, not many, just might be one girlfriend, one boyfriend, whatever it may be, one friend who comes through and just says to you, you know what, this is not the one. And I'm grateful for that, because if I look back in hindsight, there's times where you really saved me from going down places where I just thought, nah, this is the thing. And then I look back in hindsight, I'm like, wow, the frame of mind I was in was not right. So you could take the emotion out of a situation, because we all get emotional about things, you get very passionate and you want to see it through, and that's fire. That's the fire in you. But when you've got someone who can be the water to that and just pull it away and say, okay, I'll definitely fuel this fire if it's the right thing, but if it's not, let me just douse it a little bit and just see if we can calm yourself down a bit. Yeah, you're a bit emotional, you calm yourself down, the next day, I see what you're saying, okay, cool, let's go a different route with this. So we've got a really good dynamic.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of things that we use as music references, but I think are just everyday life situations that I think we can always play off of. That's why I'm quite interested to, I know you've got questions that you want to ask, but also the questions you've got, because I think...
We actually had a discussion about one song once, from the tarmac of Heathrow to landing in the tarmac of LAX, Los Angeles. It lasted that long, and we both couldn't believe that we've been talking about this for, I think it was 12 hours, whenever it was, talking about the nuances of a song. Because for me, it's music first, marketing second. As you say with Cocoa Butter, I wouldn't have looked at any marketing reference, but just for your information, Craig's most synced song isn't his biggest hit. His biggest synced song is What's Your Flavor? So any of you that want to write songs, I suggest think of a great title, because that's been for Walker's Crisps, that's been for Mattel Toys, that's been synced on chicken. What's your flavour? But we didn't put it out for the marketing value, but it does come, so if you do the right thing, money follows.
Boom. There's a click. That's the quote.
That's the takeaway for today.
That's the takeaway, you know what I mean? Over to you, my man.
So I just wanted to, I appreciate you guys almost can interview each other at this point.
No,
We'll interview you in a minute.
But I feel like I've got to add, I guess.
I apologise. I know you was like squirting water on you. He was really trying to diminish your thing. You were like slowly like that Bart Simpson thing when you go into the bush.
Suit, though.
You go further back into the bush.
If you'd have had your suit pressed like that yesterday, the Queen wouldn't have given you a little clip around the ear.
Yeah, I know. It's very classy, man. No, you're on point.
Good stuff. Right. I just wanted to sort of explore some themes and then pass it over to the audience.
Yeah, do that.
So the first thing I wanted to sort of touch on was, I think, Colin, you mentioned in an interview, possibly this summer, about how normally people think it's sort of the manager that sometimes needs to inspire the artist, but how through your relationship with Craig, you found that it can go the other way as well. So are there any moments where you sort of can point to that really explain that? And do you think that's something that is essential to having a good sort of manager-artist dynamic?
Yeah, I think it's very important to be, as a manager, I have a commercial and economic mind, but most importantly, as I said earlier, it's led by the music, okay? So I think that the best way for me to explain it is I was on a panel a few years ago in LA, a manager's panel with some of the good and great of American artists on the same panel. And it was a panel about management and what does a manager do for an artist. And, Lady Gaga's manager was on the panel, as were other well-known managers. And there were the two guys in the audience that kept berating us, saying, oh, man, I don't know what you need these managers. We don't need managers. We fired 2 managers. And I'm like, I don't get involved in this. Right? 2 very big guys having a go. And I'm thinking, it's not my fight. And they kept on going the whole time. We fired our managers. They couldn't get us a record deal, and there's simple things like that, and it was ridiculous. And so we fired them, and they kept on going. I just kept on ignoring them, and the panel came to an end. And then they came up to me and said, can we give you our CD? I said, I don't need your CD. I know it's shit, right? And they were big guys, but they actually, the point was to be made. That they said, well, that's typical of a manager, isn't it? You haven't even listened to it and it's shit. I said, no, but I've listened to you guys tell me that your managers you fired can't get you a record deal. Well, record companies are in the business of signing great music, right? And they're not in the business of passing away on great music. So actually, I know that your CD isn't good enough for a record company to sign, therefore, they've passed on it. You're blaming the manager. If you'd have said to me, our manager screwed up our tour budget, they screwed up our insurances, they didn't insure cancellation, they did lots of things wrong with our royalties, they didn't collect PPL, they didn't understand the mechanical royalty. Okay, now I have an understanding why you fired your manager, but to say he didn't get you a record deal, it's down to the music, it's not down to me. It says above my door, manager, not magician, right? So, guys, if your music's better, my idea is, and my simple philosophy is, think from within. Think within, okay, and then the music will come. Don't expect me to do the music for you. I'm not coming on stage with you. I couldn't do what Craig or any artist does, going on stage in front of 100,000 people, up to 100,000 people performing, but I can sit in a meeting with anyone in this country, whether it be the Prime Minister or whether it be a guy that's, cleaning my, car, if you like, and have a serious conversation with them. So there's a massive difference, and that shows you that actually it's down to people. It's down to people who blame other people about stuff, live their lives in a very circular sort of returning basis, that actually blame is one of the most negative cultures you'll find that exist in the world. Because even as a manager, as a company, we have a no-blame culture. And the reason we have a no-blame culture is because if I blame I have a thing called the Skelker factor, which we could put into the records here at Cambridge. What's the Skelker factor? Mr. Skelker was the headmaster at my son and daughter's school, okay? And Mr. Skelker Okay, really, it was very simply a very nice headmaster, very nice man. Now, had I, okay, not paid the fees, Mr. Skelker would have come to me and said, Mr. Lester, you're a very nice man and your kids are wonderful students of this school. But unfortunately, because you can't pay the fees, get them out as soon as possible. Without causing any embarrassment, get them out of this school. Now, they're gone. I can't pay the fees. Now, I can't say to Mr. Skelker, actually, Mr. Skelker, it's not my fault. The radio plugger that I employed to that record was really shit. And actually, I got this marketing guy in that was dreadful. And he was a complete arsehole. And the people that I was asking to book television for me, oh my God, how I ever employed them, I don't know. But anyway, all of those people are going to get better and people, and then I hopefully will get hit records, etc. Mr. Skelker would say, great. When you get those people, come back, and then I may be able to take them back when you can afford to pay the fees. That's the Skelker factor. Blame gets you nowhere. Okay, it just puts you in a position that actually you're going to dig yourself into another hole. So, you know, that is really the whole of the management view of what I do and how I look at artists to excite me as much as I can excite them with, you know, my knowledge and their brilliance, if you like.
Sure. That sounds, I think the management aspect, I think this talk is pretty unique in that we've got both sides of it, I guess the artist side as well as the managerial aspect. So would you say the same sort of concept like translates to the artistic side in that, are there moments where you sort of produce or come up with a track and due to certain circumstances you feel like you can't express yourself to your fullest? Is there sort
very
of...
Jonathan Ross, isn't he?
Good.
He's very good, he is. He's like very Jonathan Ross.
You're good, man. You're good. You're good. You're very eloquent and articulate. Do you know what? It's very similar than if you flip it. For my thing is, like I said, when I go on, like Colin said, when I go on stage, there's no one I can turn to. You know, like I have to be 110%. Like I can't. One of the first times when I met Colin was when I was doing some auditions for different record companies. They wanted to see can he actually perform.
That's all right, but I put you into a showcase at Nomis, exactly right, and invited all the label down.
Yeah, so we did a showcase over there, and I was performing a few of the songs that actually made the first album, but there was one song called Rendezvous. So I started to perform the song.
Forgot about this.
And then back then there was like a DAT player, which was like sort of one up from a tape player, from a tape, and if none of you really care about all that, it was a device that played music. So, or the format that played music. Playing the backing track, I'm performing, and then sort of a minute into the song, the DAT stops. Now, at that moment, there's a very fight or flight situation that kicks in. So you're getting super hot, like very quickly. You're sweating all of a sudden very quickly. But you've got a split second. But within that split second, it feels like a lifetime. That you make a decision as to whether, do I go to my heart or do I go to my head? Because my head is saying, I need to turn around and tell the guy who's dealing with, the engineer who's dealing with the DAT player and the music, and tell him a few things about himself. Because you're messing up my moment. I can't believe this. How can this happen? Da-da-da. I thought, did you not test? That's what's going on in the head. The heart is saying, you know you can do this. Own it. Your time. What are you going to do? A cappella. Let's go. Continue singing. So I chose to go with the heart on it, and I just carried on singing a cappella. And got to the chorus, and I'm about to go into the second verse, and then Colin comes in. He says, it's okay, Craig, you stop now. I'm thinking, oh, man, I went with the heart, man. I went with the heart, man. Come on. He said, that's enough. We're good here. We're good here. And he didn't, and he pulled me aside, and he said, Craig, well, I'll let you actually say if you want to, but you pulled me aside and said, Craig, the defining moment, and I might be slightly embellishing this just to hype up a little bit, just to give me a little bit, but he's here so he can sort of pull me back if I get a bit too lively. That it was that moment that was a defining moment as to whether I wanted to sign you or not. I knew you had the songs. We already had Walking Away. I knew, and you already had come in with the songs. I was always going to give you a record deal of some sorts. But in terms of an artist that could pull off that performance in that pressure at the age that I was, which was like 15, 16 at the time? 16 or 17?
17.
Yeah. You see how you embellish it. So at the age of 12, 17. I was like 11, I was like 10. So to pull that
Oh,
off.
sorry, yeah, it was 9 at the time.
9 at the time, 8 years old. What a genius. 7 years old, you pulled that off. It was amazing. 4 years. So sorry, I'm just, just sort of going, how far can we still go down the thing? Right, so for me, it was a moment that proved everything real time, that I couldn't blame anyone else. And it was actually the moment that ended up being the part and the catalyst for the spark in our relationship.
It's called the X Factor moment, and that's where X Factor comes from. That was the X Factor moment for me. I brought in about 20 people. That was all of our marketing department, our promotions department, everyone that worked on the label. So, okay, here's a new guy that I've just signed, okay, about to sign. Check it out. Any comments, please speak to me about them, although I won't pay much interest because I'm signing him, because in what I do and what A&R people do and what labels do is you tend to be very, sort of focused about what you want to do, but hope that the rest of the company love it so they can feel part of it. And when this thing broke down, I looked at this kid thinking, you are about to get smashed, right? You are nowhere on it. This tape machine is chewed up, this dad, right? And his manager ran over there like, oh, I'm going to try and fix it. And I was just stood at the back thinking, he's blown this one. And actually, he just sung a cappella, and it was absolutely better than him singing with the track behind it. Suddenly, he just broke into beats and started singing it, and he had this room looking at him like he was, the Messiah. And I thought, wow, that is unbelievable. I've never seen that smashed up and the person go, oh, excuse me, give me 1 minute while we fix it. Didn't it? It was like it was part of the show, okay? And it held him in good stead, because you may want to tell the story about what happened to you at was it Virgin?
V Festival.
V Festival, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of...
This year, or last year.
A few years, it was a couple of years back, just before they started doing V Festival. But it's those moments that kind of end up, and I was saying this like just backstage a moment when we were doing some of the interviews. I was saying that, and you said it actually coming in about, don't worry about, you're here because you want to come home with a degree and you want to be like, look, it looks nice, sit it down, it looks lovely, you got the degree, which is great. And the academic skill set is key, and it's part of what sets us up with some foundation. But the experiences that I've had have shown me that your opportunity is happening in real time. So we'd love it to be that you get the degree, you have a little time, you relax, I know what I want to do, I'm going to go for that interview, and I've already kind of just all got my checklist. It won't happen like that. It will happen when you least expect it, when you're in a lift coming down and you bump into that person and you were all flustered because you were going for some interview, and then all of a sudden you say something that you didn't really mean because you were kind of flustered in the moment, and then you go off about your business. Next thing you find out that that's the CEO of the company that you were going to be trying to get your job at, and the way you dealt with him was so off, or her was so off, that you messed up your opportunity. Or you handled yourself with morals and respect and humility, and you said, oh, let me help you, let me. That moment could be the defining moment. It's not going to necessarily come with let me present you with my best case, my best presentation. So for me, it was like that moment that happened in the showcase for Colin was fast forward to me being on stage, and there's like, I don't know, 30, 40,000 people at V Festival. 60,000 seats. So I tried to keep it humble.
I have to know my numbers.
So we don't know who's embellishing who. You know what I mean? You got to do your
numbers go up, numbers go down.
Numbers go up, numbers go down. You know what I mean?
You can check these numbers.
You know what I mean? Check the stats. But walked on stage and I was doing one of my TS5 DJ sets, which is kind of, the performance is more, I'm mixing records and also going out and performing. And so I went to go and press the first song, which was going to be Rewind, and no sound came out. So I'm looking out at like 60,000 people. And again, fight or flight, what do you do here? Part of me wants to look at the engineer. Now it's a bit more professional now. Now we've got the in-ears in, and you've got your front of house guy over there who's dealing with the front of house music sound, and you've got your engineer, and it's all like a bit more professional now.
It's a lot more professional.
But the same fight or flight kicks in where I want to tell some few people about themselves, yeah? Like, which part did you not really change the thing? How do you expect me to go out in front of 60,000? Head. Heart said, remember what you did when you got your record deal like 16, 17 years ago? So I went into a cappella. Now it's
no point in blaming anyone.
Yeah, no blame
helped him.
But the
Well, look
acapella, the funniest thing with the acapella is that I'm going into it, and the crowd is a young crowd, you know. They come to hear some, a little Fall to the Floor, a little house tune. They want to hear 7 Days. They want to hear Nothing Like This. They want to hear When the Bass Line Drops. So I'm doing a cappella of 7 Days, because the first tune I thought, let me go into something that's kind of, they know the words to. Everyone's singing along, great. And I'm like, okay, let me go into a quick, like 16-bar freestyle rap thing. Oh, great, great. And I'm thinking, okay, let me now go into rewind. They're all getting hype. And I'm thinking now, this crowd is not here to hear an a cappella set for an hour, yeah, right? So now I'm starting to sweat, because I'm thinking, like, this is not the one. So how am I going to carry this off for an hour, yeah? Because I could go. I'll go the distance, yeah? But there's a point where I look at the crowd, they're like, bro, we know you can sing, yeah? But, like, I was coming with my mate, and we were looking for a good time with some beats. And
Give me some fast speed of that rapping.
I'll get some. It'll come. I'll come.
That's what kept them interested, going mental.
And now I'm thinking to the engineer to not play the music halfway through. I'm thinking, please don't press rewind and it comes right in the middle of the thing, some jarring sound and mash. So I'm having this really out-of-body experience of I'm like sort of telepathically saying to the engineer, please don't mess it up. I'm thinking about, I'm in the crowd thinking, no one wants to hear this a cappella for any more than like the 5 minutes you've already done. And then somehow I segued back smoothly back to the DJ console, hoping that if I press play, the tune would be fixed. And I pressed it, and it so effortlessly went into the tune so beautifully. And after, I'm seeing all the tweets and the Instagram messages, like, oh man, you smashed it, man, it was sick. You came out, did this a cappella thing, it was like sick, never heard that before. I was thinking, if only you knew what was going on. So those moments become your defining moment. People go away saying that was like the best performance they'd seen me do. And there's me sweating, like thinking, wow, I'm doing Mr. Acapella Man here. So as a bit of advice, just be prepared that your opportunities will come in ways that you don't expect. And it's your humility and how you are as a human being that will set you up so much more sometimes than the academic or me practicing something at home. It's like, how did you deal with that person when they spoke to you? How did you turn up? How did you show up in that moment? It defines you for the rest of your life in those. So,
I guess in reality, just to sort of close that circle, is that actually, if you think about it, you know, we all think we're in control of our lives. But actually, I'm a believer, and I know Craig is, I'm a believer in the universe actually controls our lives, and that we're not totally in control. Everything happens for a reason. And actually, if you think like that, you become more and more free to do things that you know, you can sit there and think, oh my God, I've got 3 songs. Well, it could be 3 songs in my case, but in your guys, it could be 3 job offers. Which one should I take? Actually, there's only one job offer that really you're ever going to get that suits you and that you want to take. But actually, you're sitting there all night, you're up, you're talking to your parents, your friends, which one shall I take? Actually, realistically, there will only ever be one that the universe puts you into. And that's really how it works in life, that if you look for the answers, they're pretty simple to find. And that's my experience as somebody talking as someone, you know, from my experience in life and also in business.
I think the example is really sort of rings true. I mean, we had a speaker here earlier this term called Czech Wes, and he talked about how he was in the studio in the middle of his one take of his track, and then the beat cut out, and he didn't know what to do, but he ad-libbed, and that's the part of the song that most people sort of recognize.
Yeah, totally.
So I think the ideas of what accountability and just knowing what to do in that moment, the fight or flight moment, as you mentioned, really defines your talent and your success as an artist.
Totally.